So I'm excited to interview Reverend Jim Hollis today. Jim is the executive director of Proactive Ministries and a retired ordained elder and General Evangelist of the United Methodist Church with 45 years of effective and varied ministry. Proactive Ministries works with Chick-fil-A, and they help do training for high performance leadership teams. If you know about Chick-fil-A, you know they do a wonderful job. They just built a Chick-fil-A right down the road from my church. And, it's like the new thing in town. So there's just cars going around the building, but somehow they're still able to get us through. You go up thinking there's no way I'm going to get lunch in time, but then you go through and they get you through. They know how to do it. So they obviously know what they're doing something well. So Jim's coming to my church on April 23rd to train our leaders and congregation on relational outreach ministry, something we're calling How to Love Your Neighbor training. And it's for everybody in the church. And I thought I'd interview Jim today and just let him tell us a little about what he does. So how's it going, Jim?
Just fine, Chris. It's great to be here with you and the folks at your church and others that may be listening to this interview that we're doing on loving your neighbor and outreach ministry. So that's exciting, and I'm just honored and blessed to be here today.
Yeah, glad to have you and looking forward to that training. So what I understand is you're retired. I mean, after 45 years, you got to be retired, right? So how's that treating you?
I started when I was 12.
Yeah.
No, not really. But I retired from the conference back in 2015.
Okay.
I started this ministry that is known as Proactive Ministries, and it was started as a 501c3 not-for-profit ministry back in 1993, and we became an interdenominational ministry. Now, we have worked with about 1,000 churches across 45 states, and we have worked primarily with Methodist churches, though we've worked with several other denominations. That's just because of the relationships we had and some of the keynote speaking I got to do at some of the huge conferences around the country as time went by, and then that's put us in those areas which tend to bring like people together.
Yeah.
So it's been a great journey there as far as that goes. And as far as being a general evangelist, what that really means is when you feel led to stop being a pastor under appointment in our system, then you can feel led to do, whatever else. And I felt led to go into full-time evangelism, teaching, coaching, training kind of ministry. And I had been in the pastorate for about 18 and a half years, serving churches as you're doing now. And then really felt like I wanted to specialize. And so I formed this ministry, and we went out and started working with different congregations and different groups of churches and that kind of thing. And so for the last about 30 years, we've been all over the U.S. in all kinds of churches, urban, rural, everything in between, big, small, some as many as 10,000 members and some as many as 10 members. And so, we've seen more about church than we ever thought we'd see.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I really like the word that you use to coaching. As I think about coaching, we got a lot of baseball players in our church, and they're so talented. They just have raw talent and they work hard at it. But I think about how, a coach can come in, like a batting coach, teaches them a little bit different way to swing. So it's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just that there's just little things you can do. And I imagine in your work with churches, it's kind of the same way.
Well, there are two reasons that we know as a fact why typical Christians today in the United States, out of all the American churches, not just in the Methodist family, but out of all those churches, we did over 100,000 interviews that we handed out during the many years of teaching and coaching that we did. And we asked two primary questions. The first was, why do you think, as a layperson or a pastor, why do you think Christians are reluctant or hesitant to share their faith and love in Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
And two top answers in 96% of those surveys, which we were shocked by because we just kept doing them all over the place in all kinds of settings. And we kept getting the same responses. And these were write-in responses pretty much. And so that it wasn't like multiple choice. The number one reason was I'm in fear of personal rejection. I'm believing if I do something like that, I'm going to get personally rejected and rebuffed, and I'm going to be creating an ill will toward me. That was important. The second question was as to why people weren't doing this is because no one has ever taught me how to do this in a meaningful way. And then you got all these negative images about evangelism, from Bible thumpers to people beating you over the head with a stick, repent or burn in hell, turn or burn kind of things, and that wasn't at all what we were trying to do, and that wasn't what we did. So once we answered those two questions, then everything began to shift. It really began to change, and a new lens was put in place.
Well, yeah, I mean, because evangelism is kind of a loaded question, right? I mean, I grew up, I'm a Methodist pastor, but I grew up going to Baptist churches, and there was a really strong emphasis on evangelism. I know when I was a kid, we had a county fair in our community, and the church would take us and put us, they'd take us to the fair for free, but in order to earn that admittance, we had to go stand at the entrance, and we would, like, as teenagers, we would hand out tracts and invite people to church. And I don't know, for me, it scared me to death. One, as I was just a teenager,
right,
and they're asking me to do that, and but I did it, but then as an adult reflecting back on it, I often was like, was that really effective? And is that the kind of thing I believe? And I think this is one of the things I bring from my background growing up in Baptist churches. There's this really strong desire for me. I feel like we're supposed to be evangelists, but how do we do that in a different way? I wonder sometimes if the ways I did it as a child were effective or not. And so what is evangelism anyway?
Well, it's defined many different ways. Typically, the word in Greek means the good news of Jesus Christ, but as far as how it's practically lived out is a pretty big variety. But what I mean by evangelism in the things I've taught and written, evangelism is consistently loving another person unconditionally with the love of Jesus Christ, requiring nothing from them in return. And that's my definition across these 45 years that I've come up with for the word evangelism, because sometimes we have evangelized, which means we've kind of gone out and reached out to people, but there's kind of this hidden agenda in the background. It's like, hey, we want to come and love on you guys and care about you and be your neighbor, and really want you to come to our church. Is what, but we don't talk about that. It's kind of over here somewhere. But this is the purity of sharing God's unconditional love and not requiring anything in doing that with others, because it's totally up to them how they respond to that unconditional love that we're sharing. And of course, we all share it in our unique ways.
Yeah. I got to share this. I just had a really cool thing happen right before we started our interview. I had a couple of minutes and I checked my Facebook account. So there's a guy that I met. He lives actually in another state, but I do jujitsu, so martial arts. And he came down. He's a black belt from another school, but he came down and was participating in that. And so we met and we just kind of talked over the years. And maybe 2-3 years ago, he contacted me and was asking me some questions. He wasn't a Christian, but he was asking me about different things, and that was fine. And so I just I had no investment in it. He's not ever going to come to my church. He lives in a whole nother state, but I talked with him. And then I just got on Facebook today, and saw that he was baptized yesterday in,
Wow.
in a church.
Wow.
And I just thought, well, that's awesome. I'm so happy for him. But I think that was evangelism, even though, I wasn't doing anything with him, just answering some questions that he had, apparently. And that all started through, doing jujitsu, trying to choke each other at a seminar like 4 years ago. So,
Right. Well, and that's a great example, Chris, because in the Bible, Paul says some people sowed the seeds, some saw the seeds come up, some nourished the plants, and some were there to get the harvest. And so,
right.
there is no real need to expect any of us to be doing that complete cycle. It's a community of faith kind of thing, and it's also the love of God which reaches out to us in a prevenient way. We talk about prevenient grace, and we talk about how God is always wooing us and calling us to salvation and calling us into that personal saving relationship through Jesus Christ. And that goes on all the time. And
Right.
so for us to have the honor and the privilege of being used to just have a little part of that, I don't think we can go into it anticipating, oh, well, I'm going to do this much, because it may be that much, or it may be more than what we think. But I think you did that in good faith, and you did it with authentic caring, and that was part of that. That was part of what brought that to life.
Right. And I think it works best when you kind of forget that you're doing it, right? You're just being a friend, or whatever, with someone. So you've been kind of going around coaching churches on that kind of thing for a number of years.
That's right. Decades.
Decades.
Yeah.
So,
Longer than I can remember all of them. But we never did hit and run. We all evangelists call that hit and run, where you go in and you do a weekend, you get everybody all fired up, and everybody's like, rah, 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 we're ready to go, and then just go to the next place. Because to me, all the years I spent as a pastor, I just didn't like that. It's like, hey, you came in and you were kind of like the grandparents who came in and gave our little kids Cokes and candy and chocolate, and then we sent them home with you, and you had to deal with that. So it's like, that's not what this is about. The way we've done our ministry is to work longer term, more in depth, and more intimately with the people that are going to learn how to do this ministry in an apprentice style. So it's like we learn it, and then we get it intellectually, and then we go out and we employ that, and we actually do that, and then we come back together again, and we talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what could have been different, how would I do it next time? Not that there's a script of any kind, but just that going from sometimes we don't know what we don't know. That's being, the psychologists say, that's being unconsciously incompetent. And you can be okay being unconsciously incompetent. I don't have a clue. Then you go to the next level, which is to become consciously incompetent, and realize, as we look in the Bible and as we hear God's teaching, we're to go into all the world and make disciples. And we go like, wow, that's just really weird. I mean, I see what it says, but I don't want to think about it. And then we go through the coaching and the teaching and the training, little by little, as people need to have that for themselves. And then they go out and start doing that kind of intentional loving and caring on others. And they say, this is pretty cool, but it feels so mechanical. It's like all those things you taught us, not scripts, don't get me wrong. All those things you taught us, I have to really think about it. Well, that's because you've become consciously competent. And of course, what we pray that the Holy Spirit will do is fill us so much with the Holy Spirit's power and wisdom that we'll be able to start doing that consistently in an unconscious way. So we're not having to think it through, but we're doing it as the lifestyle that we want to be as Christians.
Right. Well, you came probably 20 years ago. Bob Beckwith was our pastor at Lithia Springs, and he invited you to come in and speak and train. And it really shaped the way I've done ministry, and I've got a lot to learn. I'm probably unconsciously incompetent, but
I
in
don't
a lot of
think
ways.
so.
But no, really, I have thought about it a lot. The whole idea of relational ministry, and so I try to just always think in those terms in my ministry. Is like, be a friend, try to be kind to people, love people, and
Sure,
let the Holy Spirit work through that.
sure.
So, but that's why I thought about having you come to Pleasant Grove, and I know that that's something that we need to work on. We got a lot of opportunities in a growing community here, and we have people that really do care and love. And a lot of times it's just like, well, how do we do this? How do we talk to the
Right.
person that we meet in the restaurant or wherever? So what kinds of things do you think you would be helping us with at Pleasant Grove on April 23rd?
Well, as you and I have spent time praying and preparing and thinking about your congregation and your people and your community, we talked about areas of outreach, and we
Mhm.
talked about reaching out to people that are in the community, and that would be through two major groups. One would be in restaurant settings. Because in a restaurant setting, everybody is generally in a pretty good mood.
Yeah.
We're going out to where we want to go out to eat because we're there because we're hungry, or there's something we like the taste of, or we're fellowshipping or something else. And then the people that are there are glad we came because they're the servers who come to our tables, and they got their name badge on, and they say, hi, it's so nice to have you here today. My name is Cindy or John or whoever it may be. That is a perfectly provided mission and ministry field right there, because
Absolutely.
obviously their prime agenda is for everything to go well so they get a tip, right? Because that's how they're living. I mean, let's be honest, they're not
Yeah.
knocking down the money truck. So the thing for us is we generally don't see that as a ministry opportunity, and when we go in there, we generally get that menu. Now these are usually restaurants we've been to uh, 15 or 20 times. So we already pretty much know the menu, and we're looking at it really because we're seeing how much the prices have gone up.
Hmm.
Oh, they're charging an extra dollar here or an extra $2 there. I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. We know that we need to stop focusing so much on ourselves, and if we're doing it as a ministry team, we're going in there not to check out the menu or to order the food that we find is our favorite thing to fill up on. We're going in there to pray that God will send the right server to the table we're sitting at,
Mm.
so that when he or she comes up and introduces themselves, they got that name badge on. I
Yeah.
mean, how easy is that? Instead of looking at the menu when they go, hi, my name is John and I'm going to be your server today, instead of us going, huh? Oh, yeah. Huh?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we don't pick up the menu. We look at them and we look right in their face and we say, John, it's nice to meet you. I'm Jim. This is Chris. And this is Cindy. And we're glad that you're going to be our server today.
Yeah.
And what happens? They look back like, man, who are these people?
Right.
I
Right.
waited on this table 7 times today, and I didn't have anybody that even noticed my name. And
Right.
so we began to change the whole paradigm of that experience. And then as they come back to drink, bring our drinks and bring our entrees and stuff like that, we start asking them some things about themselves, like how long have you worked here? And they say 2 weeks. Well, where were you before that? And just questions about their story.
Yeah.
That is so engaging to them, and every time they go back to the kitchen, they go back and they start thinking, wow, there's something about these people that's so different than anybody else in this restaurant today. And
Yeah.
so as they come to bring us our food, we say, John, we are so thankful for this food. It looks great, smells great. We're going to give thanks over it because we're Christians.
Yeah.
And it's anything that we could pray for you about today.
Yeah.
And listen, this is a mind blower, but 95% of the time, all over the US, people will often say, yes, there is. My mother's having tests next week in St. Louis. My brother is having a terrible situation with his wife. One of my sisters has a son who's been expelled from school. And you know, sometimes you'll hear those little beeps like the dump trucks backing up. And sometimes it's just, yeah, just pray for my mother. And so that leads to other opportunities to find out what's really going on inside that person.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is just common sense, loving people with the love of Christ.
Right, right. And that's a great way to do it, because in a restaurant setting, well, like you said, they're paid to
Yeah,
come interact with you,
that's
whereas
right.
most people are looking for reasons not to interact, you know, in our day and age, it seems like,
Yeah.
unless they're just a especially outgoing person. So that's a great concept. I'm excited about that.
And the other thing is, Christians, don't ever leave a measly tip because your witness is shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Hey, I
really,
know
you
my
have to
daughter
take
is a waitress, and I've heard some people say, "Well, I did, for the tip I gave them, I left a track." I'm like, that's the
Oh,
worst. I mean,
that's
give them
bad.
$100 bill and a track. Don't just give them a track. You just shot yourself in
Yeah,
the foot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's one group. You asked the groups. You've got some developments up there in your area that we talked about that we could intentionally and consistently reach out to in a loving, caring manner in order to welcome them to the community and to get to know them as friends.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's another group. Another group we have is worship guests, and we don't call them visitors. Y'all don't call them visitors. That's not what we want to call them, because visitors implies that they might have just decided on Sunday morning to get up and show up.
Hmm.
And we believe that everyone who comes to a congregation on a Sunday morning is there by the leading of the Holy Spirit. We
Hmm.
think that's a divine appointment, and they may not know it's a divine appointment, and we may not have known them before they walked in, but we believe that's the hand of God at work. And so
Hmm.
they are our worship guests, and they're our guests, not the church's guests. They're
Hmm.
our guests, and God is entrusting their care to us, and that's a pretty awesome opportunity right
It
there.
is. It is. It is. We do have some new developments in our community, and we want to be prepared to welcome them into our community. Some of those neighbors are from our community, but a lot of them are moving in from out of town, maybe even out of state. And
Right.
I know, as a pastor who's moved around a lot, that it's a challenge when you move into a new community, just finding, like, where do you eat? Where do you go to the doctor? Where's your dentist? And what schools, and all of the stuff that you have to learn. So we want to be able to help people. And maybe as part of that, where we can help them, invite them to our church. Or, I mean, maybe they're not a Methodist, maybe they're a Baptist. I can tell them some good Baptist churches around here too. So I'm okay with that. I just want everybody to have a chance to know Jesus. So however we can do that.
Right. Well, that's all good. I think that it's important to realize once we let them know, and I do think we need to let them know that we are reaching out to their neighborhood development community, whatever. We're reaching out to their neighborhood um, as your church, and we just tell them that we're from the church. It's important to do that in these days, in this culture, because otherwise people are thinking, who are these people? Where are they coming from?
Hmm.
And of course, if we can get the word Methodist in there, 95% of people know we're harmless, right?
Right.
If we were to
That's
say,
true.
hey, these are super duper Holy Ghost sanctified, snake handling, whatever, it's like, nope. No, but if you can get Methodist in there somehow, just briefly, then it's like, oh my gosh, and some will say, Methodists don't do this. They don't reach out. I said, well, and so what we want to avoid, which will be the greatest temptation, we're not going to do church commercials. That's what we've done for the last 40 years, and it has failed miserably
Hmm.
because there's been way too much focus on church and not nearly enough focus on Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's the
And
truth.
so we shy away from the whole Jesus Christ thing, and we go toward church because we find that easier to talk about.
Mm.
But that's not what this is about. This is about loving others with the unconditional love of Jesus Christ, as we talked about earlier. It's about relating to others where they are and who they are and how they're living. And then the third thing is it's encouraging them.
Mm.
And so that's not all going to happen on one experience or encounter with them, but that's the long-term approach we're using to build those bridges of friendship and caring. And really, the more we can get of their story, the more we've got a connection to them, and the more of that bridge that we build, which results in trust. And that trust becomes the support that carries them and us together to be able to share more deeply about the things that are bothering us in life, and what our needs are and what our hopes and dreams are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of opportunities there, and maybe one of the things too we get a chance to look at is the guests that do come to our church. We just had Easter yesterday, and so we had a lot of new people in the church, and that's just, it's kind of like the restaurant thing where it's a natural thing where you get to rub elbows with new people, and maybe knowing some different ways to take advantage of that and make the most of those opportunities. So
Sure.
I know we try to do well, but we can always, it's like that batting coach, maybe if you just turn a little bit this way, you could do
That's right.
something a little differently. So
Yep, that's right. Well, I think we are generally able to ask people easy questions, simple questions, not how many books are in the Old Testament.
yeah,
But that's our fears. Are they going to ask us a question?
yeah,
Like, there's very little chance that'll happen. Okay,
right.
very little chance. So what I'm saying is, if you ask them, well, have y'all been getting along? How have you
Mhm.
liked living in the community, or what's been going on with your family lately?
Yeah,
Well, right there, 90% of the time they're going to come back and say, well, we've been so busy because our son plays little league, and he sprained his ankle and we had to take him to the hospital and get it x-rayed, and they said a sprain is worse than a break. And I mean, hey, I don't have to do anything. It's like, wow, well, where
yeah,
did that happen, and what position does he play? And
yeah.
just ask those questions. What position does he play?
Mhm.
And how's his batting going? And did you play when you were young? Oh yeah, and so you,
Yeah,
right away you have opened up that channel for them to share with you their story, which makes them feel incredibly comfortable.
Mm.
And inside their spirit, they're saying, I like these people, because even though they said they were from some church and they may not remember the name, they don't seem to be doing anything to us,
Yeah,
because I'm expecting them to do something. They're going to
yeah,
ask us for money, or they're going to ask us, do we know that there's a good possibility we may be going to turn? If we don't turn, we're going to burn, or
right.
whatever. I mean, so all these stereotypes you mentioned earlier are
Yeah,
flying around in their heads. And so
yeah,
it only takes about 2 to 4 minutes to just smash those negative stereotypes. And they say in their spirit, that's not who these people are. There's
right,
something different about them,
right,
because they seem to be very sincere, and they're asking us about ourselves and not telling us about their church.
right.
And you know what? There are people out there today everywhere. We see them all the way from Utah to Savannah, Georgia, up to Minneapolis, all the way down to Miami, and they'll say to us, "Well, I know you said y'all are from a church. Well, we don't do church, so that means that's the end of it." And it
Mhm.
would say, hey, that's not a problem. That's fine, because we're not here today to talk about church.
Yeah,
Here today to do two things. We're meeting our neighbors, and we're making some new friends.
hmm.
And if you don't want any new friends, we probably ought to just end this right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But who couldn't use a few more friends, right?
That's
At
right.
least and everybody's definition of friend is different. Like
Right.
some people like a lot of friends, and several people like I don't want a lot of friends. But everybody can use a neighbor, because you never know when you're going to need it. You
Absolutely.
get a flat tire and somebody's going by. Yeah, they could help you out, or you could help them out, or whatever. So,
Yeah. So the other thing, Chris, about this, it's fun.
mhm.
It's going to be scary. It's going to be fearful. It's going to be all those things because we're going to have to trust Jesus Christ and his
Mm.
power to, number one, get over ourselves.
Yeah,
And we don't do that very well.
right.
Nope, I'm protecting myself. I'm not going to be vulnerable in front of some person. But the thing is, can we be trusted with his power,
Mm.
which can put us with the people that he wants us to see, and he can put people in our path and in the checkout line at Walmart, or at the gas station or the grocery store or wherever. He can put that person right in our line, and we say, well, hey, how's your day going? Terrible. My
Mm.
husband came in last night and left me a little note in an envelope and said, the next call you'll get is from the lawyer. And
Mm.
now, if we're not cued in enough to know that was no coincidence,
Yeah.
that was a divine appointment, and I wonder how many angels it took
Mm.
God to get that person and us in that checkout line.
Yeah.
And so we don't say, well, we'll pray for you. All right,
Yeah.
well, see you later. I
Yeah.
mean, no,
Yeah.
no, because we say, well, listen, I'd really love to let you know I appreciate you sharing that with me, and we would really like to pray for you in that circumstance. Um, if you've got a minute, maybe we could go right over here to the Starbucks area and get a cup of coffee or
Yeah.
a glass of tea or something. I'd love to hear how you're doing. It must
Yeah.
not be a good time. And sometimes they'll say, great, great. Well, yeah, I'll come over there and visit with you. And so that's how God makes these linkages
Mm.
between people like us who have issues and problems and struggles and can understand somebody that's had a horrific relationship or an abusive marriage or whatever. And you know what? We can show compassion and caring, and that's what they've been praying for, and
Yeah.
not really knowing if God was hearing those prayers.
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to know that God is in control. I mean, God is working behind the scenes,
That's right.
and it's not all up to me, and it's not all up to
That's right.
God's working and making these appointments. So,
Yeah.
one other question that I have and it's kind of related, I think, is sometimes people are afraid of that intimacy. Like they
Right.
may they may not want to get involved
Right.
those
Sure.
kinds of things, and
Sure.
that can be frightening for them.
Right.
And it's related too. Is like, as a pastor, I mean, this is what I do for a living. I care for people, and there's only so much of me to go around. And how do you work boundaries into these kinds of things? I know one of the things for me with my ministry is that I try to build a relationship with people,
Right.
and that's important. From all of this stuff that we're talking about, that's kind of like the foundation for how I try to do ministry, but it also makes it kind of tricky because sometimes people wonder, am I their pastor or am I their friend? And for me, it's kind of like, well, I don't know where one ends and the other begins. Sometimes I can see it, but so how do you work those kinds of things into it?
I think in a lot of the training we've had across the years about boundaries, as you know, because you've been to that training, you don't want to blur some of those relationships so
Hmm.
that they become difficult or very confusing to the people involved.
Right.
For example, you'd love to have, my wife and I, when we were serving churches as pastor, we wanted to have friends that we could really let our hair down with and say,
Mm.
there's this jerk that just keeps driving me up the wall. And
Right.
I don't have to say it's Allison Rogers out there or whatever. I don't have to say anybody.
Yeah.
I, but I could say, you know, there's this person that just really bugs me. Or Jan could say, you know, I'm an assistant principal in a public school, and I've got this teacher who just insists on not following the curriculum that she's supposed to teach. So we all have these kinds of things. But you know, she wouldn't want to go to one of the other teachers in that
Hmm.
school and say, you know, Patricia down the hall, she is just such a jerk because
Yeah.
she doesn't. I mean, see, that's where the boundary really gets dangerous, because she is the assistant principal in the school.
Hmm.
And she is being frustrated by a worker there, a teacher there, who is a great person to know, and all that. But she can't go to another teacher and
Hmm.
say, well, I want to tell you about Patricia. And because you know what's going to happen, the gossip network's going to light up like a neon tree.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hugely problematic. And it's going to put Patricia in a triangled position. So she's going to have to, you know, feel, well, I can't share that, or do I tell somebody, or go home and tell my husband, whatever. So yeah, boundaries are important. But the key to that, Chris, that I've found in all these years with churches, is we need friends apart from the church,
Right.
apart from the ministry that we're in, because there are frustrations that happen in any ministry, that we need someone who is confident, who is mature and understanding to go to. And if we just kind of say, hey, I just got something on my mind, I just need to say it.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, well, you go right ahead and we'll pray about it, and it stays here. You
Right.
know, it's not going to get back to the other person, or oh, I know their brother. You know, I'll just tell their brother. You know, no. We need friends like that, and we need those kind of boundaries to keep us safe, and to keep others safe, and to keep us sane, if you
Right.
will. I mean,
Right.
I don't want to use the word normal, because that definition means the setting on your dryer, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to be careful about boundaries, and you know, where we meet people, and what we say to them, and how we relate to them. There can be transference and other things. So yeah, we do want to be aware of those things, and we want to be sensitive, but we don't want to avoid people because it could get messy.
Right.
Because Jesus was in messy situations, and so were the disciples. And did they always handle it the right way? No. But
Right.
let's don't leave somebody on the side of the road
Right. Right.
bleeding, because we want to be safe and not
Because it
wrong.
it violates a policy or whatever that we have. And well, if somebody's bleeding on the side of the road, you get your hands bloody sometimes.
That's right.
you know
Yeah.
so, but yeah, it is a tricky thing, especially as a minister. That's one thing I think that maybe with lay people, they can really help pastors, they to help them understand, is that we're a professional. We try. Sometimes we're not really good at being professional, but we try. And there are certain restrictions that we have, and they may not think that. Think, well, they're the professional, they know how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but we also have to be very careful in that, because of our role. So sometimes a layperson is actually maybe empowered in ways that to cross some boundaries that we're not allowed to cross.
Well, and they have to be, you know, sensitive about those things, as you know, as well. But it's like this: people have this unrealistic expectation of pastors, and you
Hmm.
and I know that. Back when we used to do years of outreach, and before, you know, COVID and all those things, we would go into people's homes, and they would welcome us in, and that kind of thing. And we would be there with them in their setting. Now there would always be two or more of us in those kind of situations, and we would be getting to know them. But the thing is, they wanted to share with us, and one of the best places to do that is if we were sitting out on their patio, or if we could be at Starbucks, you know, having a cup of coffee, two of us with two of them or something. But yeah, I think we've got to be willing to minister to people, and lay people are called to minister to people just like we are.
Yeah.
And when we'd have a funeral in our churches, and you've done this 100 times, you go down to the funeral home, and people are down there, you know, and maybe it's the first time you've had a chance to get down there to see the family, and there'll be 4 or 5 people that'll come running up to you. Oh, Pastor Jim or Pastor Chris, we are so glad you're here because you'll know exactly what to do. And you're thinking, boy, they're dumb, you know, because what we all are there to do is to practice the power of presence of God's love.
Mm.
And we're not there to simply say something or pronounce something or what. We're there to be with them in their hurt. And the ministry of presence is often the most important ministry we'll ever do.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to having you at our church in a couple of weeks, and I think it's going to be really good. I feel like this is a great opportunity, and I'm trying to encourage my people, my congregation, to be there. Is make this a priority because that's really important. Is there anything else you wanted to share, or anything that we didn't touch on?
Well, I would invite all of your folks to come and see. You know, that's what Jesus said. He didn't say,
Yeah.
you got to be all in right now. Just come and see. Come and see. Come and experience it. Come with an open mind. You know, say, Lord, I'm going to trust you to come to this training and this teaching. I'm going to trust you that this will be something that you'll use to make me more like Jesus Christ, to make me more lovable, to know how to relate to that person in our family that I dread the possibility of sitting next to at Thanksgiving. I mean, you know, just something that small. But this is going to be a wonderful, impactful, positive experience for you to know how to live the love of Christ out every day at work, at home, out there in the golf course, the stores, wherever you may be. And that's very, very useful. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these different outreach groups and let you begin to pray about which one of them you feel God would really call you to minister in. We're not all going to go to restaurants in an ongoing way. We're not all going to go reach out to community families. We're not all going to reach out to worship guests. We're not all going to reach out in the same way, but it'll come to you through the openness of your mind and heart, and through the moving of the Holy Spirit. It'll come to you. You know, I really think I'd like to go and meet some of these folks in the ways that we're trained to go love on these folks that are servers in restaurants, because they are often abused and disrespected and underpaid and struggle. I believe I could love on some of those folks. And that's what you feel that call. Other people will say, no, I don't think I want to do that. I'd rather, you know, reach out to people who have visited our church, or worship guests, as Jim says, and that's fine. I mean, no group is more important than the others. Right. But Jesus did say, go. He never said, sit in your church and wait on other people to come to us. Yeah, that's why the church is so whacked out when it comes to the anemia of evangelism.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It really did impact me 20 years ago. So I'm hoping that it will impact somebody coming up, and maybe somebody's watching this right now and they might have learned something. So thank you for letting me interview you in this way, and just be praying for you as we get ready to do this together.
Amen. And Chris, as you finish this interview or videos that we're doing, if you would feel good about putting up my contact information, if they want to get in touch with me, they may have a question. They'd be like, now, come on, does this really work? Or something. Sure. If you've got doubts or negative experiences or whatever, there'll be time to share. If you want to call me, hey, I'm one of these guys that I answer my cell phone unless I'm in the shower. And some of my colleagues think I'm nuts for that, but I generally answer it. And if you send me a text, you know, I'll try to respond to you individually, because we need to have the freedom to say what we feel and to ask questions, and even having people come for years that say, this isn't going to work. There's just no way this stuff works. And I said, well, just come and see. And at the end of the weekend, if you've gone through the experience and given yourself to it, and you want to stand up and say, this doesn't work, that I'll give you the platform. You go right ahead. But we never had that problem because God is good and God is able.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you, Jim, so much for talking with us today. And we'll look forward to you coming on April 23rd.
Okay. Look forward to being there.
All right.